something feels off about the Philadelphia Eagles heading into training camp, and we have to address this injury situation before the season kicks off. While we likely won't see any major PUP designations, several key players are dealing with nagging health issues or contract uncertainty that could derail our momentum. It is a massive concern because this roster is built to win now, and even minor setbacks can ripple through the entire depth chart. The more details emerge, the harder it is to ignore what is going on behind the scenes. Smash that like button, subscribe, and comment your city. Let's get into it. As we look toward the start of training camp under head coach Nick Sirianni, the primary concern for the Philadelphia Eagles is the health of our roster. While we likely will not see players placed on the PUP list, there is a nagging checklist of guys dealing with various ailments that has the fan base feeling anxious. We are tracking a long list including OT Markel Bell, LB Jihad Campbell, WR Britton Covey, and several others whose status remains uncertain. And I'll be straight with you, the name causing the most speculation is Jalen Carter. Carter skipped voluntary OTAs and missed 11-on-11 drills during minicamp, leaving many to wonder if he is nursing a shoulder injury or if this is a classic hold-in situation regarding his contract extension. After dealing with shoulder issues last season, Nick Sirianni has been tight-lipped about his absence, leading many of us to worry about his availability for the upcoming season. Seeing stars like Lane Johnson and Cam Jurgens back on the field is a massive relief for our offensive line. But the uncertainty surrounding younger talents like Carter or the recent struggles of defensive lineman AJ Epinesa, who failed a physical with the Browns before joining us, keeps the atmosphere tense. We are also keeping a watchful eye on Landon Dickerson and his recovery efforts after he underwent stem cell treatment in Colombia to manage a body that clearly took a beating last year. These stories are more than just injury reports. They reflect the physical toll of this league and the ongoing contract business that defines the modern game. With the opening day of camp approaching, we have to ask ourselves, are these veterans simply being managed for long-term health, or are we looking at a genuine risk of regression for some of our most critical starters? Jalen Carter skipping mandatory minicamp drills after missing voluntary OTAs is the most concerning storyline heading into training camp, especially considering the potential contract extension hanging over his head. Carter, who dealt with shoulder injuries last offseason, is eligible for a deal that would likely cost more than $30 million per season, creating a tense standoff. Nick Sirianni remained vague when pressed on the situation, only noting that everyone is in a different boat during the offseason. The part fans are not ready for is the possibility that Carter could become a hold-in candidate, where he attends camp to avoid mandatory fines but refuses to participate in practice. Historically, this team has seen similar contract leverage plays, and management typically prefers to keep these matters internal to avoid unnecessary distractions. Behind closed doors, the front office is likely weighing the long-term value of a blue-chip defender against the risks of a drawn-out negotiation. While we remain optimistic, the lack of clarity on his physical status compared to his financial demands creates a genuine uncertainty for the defensive line. Meanwhile, we must also track veterans like Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, who underwent stem cell treatments in Colombia to address wear and tear. Dickerson accepted a restructured deal, dropping his 2026 cash intake to $15.7 million while shortening his commitment through 2027. Both players showed progress during spring practices, but the staff will be incredibly cautious with their workload. Elsewhere, the roster features lingering questions regarding Jihad Campbell, who is managing recurring shoulder issues after his college surgery, and AJ Epinesa, who arrives with a cloud of uncertainty following a failed physical with the Browns earlier this year. We are holding our breath to see who reports healthy, as depth at these critical positions remains the ultimate key to our success this season. The health of our roster as we approach the grind of training camp determines whether we are truly positioned for a deep postseason run or fighting an uphill battle from day one. While it is encouraging that most of our key contributors appear ready for the physical demands ahead, the lingering uncertainties surrounding veterans like Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens dictate that our coaching staff must balance aggressive development with cautious workload management. If these core linemen cannot maintain their health, the internal stability of our offense faces a genuine risk, potentially forcing the team to shuffle personnel and disrupt the chemistry we spent the entire spring building. Here is where it gets interesting as we evaluate how this ripple effect impacts our broader outlook. The ambiguity regarding Jalen Carter's participation, particularly concerning his potential contract extension, introduces a layer of distraction that could influence our defensive intensity throughout the early schedule. This uncertainty is not just a training camp headache. It is a direct variable in our ability to contain high-powered offenses in critical NFC East divisional showdowns. If we are forced to rely on depth rather than our premier talent in the trenches, our standing against the Commanders and the rest of the league becomes far more volatile. Every repetition counts when we look at our projected playoff path, and any delay in acclimating our roster to game speed might leave us vulnerable during those tight contests where single possessions decide everything. We need a fully operational group to establish our identity against the toughest opponents on the docket this year. Managing these injury concerns effectively is the difference between leading the division and chasing from behind. We will keep a very close eye on these specific players as camp begins, because these health statuses are the primary barometers for our championship expectations. While we generally expect a clean bill of health heading into training camp, the reality is that the Eagles roster is currently a mixed bag of potential concerns and cautious optimism. The strongest argument for our current health state is that veteran leaders like Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson are actively participating again, signaling that the core of our offensive line is stabilized after a grueling season. However, the downside remains that players like Jalen Carter and Jihad Campbell represent significant question marks. Carter is effectively a hold-in candidate due to contract considerations, while Campbell continues to manage shoulder complications that caused him to slide in the draft. And I cannot stress this enough, we must monitor these situations daily because a single missing piece can derail the momentum of an entire unit. Other analysts and observers around the league are closely watching how the team handles players like AJ, Epenesa, who arrived after failing a physical with the Browns, and Cole Wisniewski, whose medical history warrants extreme caution. It creates a narrative of uncertainty that local outlets like Philly Voice have been documenting thoroughly. My honest take here is that while the media noise surrounding Jalen Carter's contract and participation level feels slightly overblown for mid-July, the medical concerns regarding our younger depth players are grounded in hard facts that we cannot ignore. We have seen firsthand how back issues for players like Cam Jurgens can linger. So viewing these training camp participation levels as a purely binary healthy or injured metric is a mistake. We need to see sustained, full-speed repetition before we can confidently say the 2026 squad is truly ready for the rigors of a full 16-game slate. Patience will be the most valuable trait for us as fans until the regular season finally arrives. Looking at this medical checklist, we see a team that is clearly prioritizing long-term sustainability under Nick Sirianni and Jeffrey Lurie. While seeing names like Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, and Jalen Carter on a report like this gives us pause, it really underscores how much value the organization places on getting their core talent across the finish line of a grueling 17-game schedule. The shift towards specialized medical interventions like stem cell treatment suggests the team is evolving its approach to player health to ensure our investment remains on the field when it matters most. And this is the part that gets me, because while we want our stars healthy, we are also forced to watch contract situations like that of Jalen Carter Cloud, our early training camp narrative. You should feel a measured sense of optimism heading into this season, as the proactive management of these minor concerns shows a front office that understands the necessity of depth in a championship run. We have seen what happens when health fails us in the winter months, so monitoring these players now is simply the price of doing business for a franchise with legitimate aspirations. It is a balancing act between caution and competitiveness that defines the modern era of this team. With the names provided on our list, specifically regarding the uncertain status of Jalen Carter, do you believe his potential contract hold-in will be resolved before the first week of the regular season? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Fly Eagles fly. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep analyzing those off-season moves and stay tuned for more exclusive updates. We are tracking every single roster adjustment as the intensity builds toward that highly anticipated kickoff weekend.